Hey, what's up guys? Today, I'll show you a mystery thriller film, Unknown. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins where a man wearing a jean jacket called Jeans regains consciousness in a chemical warehouse. He cannot remember anything, even his name. He takes a look at his surroundings and finds other men who are unconscious. He sees a bald guy who is tied up in a chair, a handcuffed man hanging on the railings, and a man with a broken nose lying on the ground. He searches for a way out, but the warehouse is sealed by a heavy metal door with a passcode. He then checks the body of the other men, and he finds a gunshot wound on handcuffed man. This makes him think he is in danger, and he screams in panic. When Jeans takes a look at the mirror, he suddenly regains a vague memory of his daughter and the moments of the abduction. The other kidnappers call on the telephone, and he answers it. Even though he cannot remember anything, he plays along and talks with the kidnappers. Apparently, the kidnappers in the phone call are looking for their members in the warehouse. This means that someone among the men trapped in the warehouse are kidnappers, while some of them are the ones who got abducted. The other kidnappers say to him that they are coming back in a few hours, thinking that he is one of them. Meanwhile, the police are working on the case of a tycoon who got kidnapped. The tycoon's wife emotionally carries the ransom money to a meeting place. The detective puts a tracking device to the ransom money so they can catch the kidnappers. Back at the warehouse, the bald guy, nicknamed Mr. Baldy, wakes up, screaming for help like a bald baby. He also cannot remember anything. As Jeans is about to free him up, a fifth man with a short haircut, called Buzz Cut for short, suddenly stops Jeans. Buzz Cut, who also cannot remember anything, convinces him that Mr. Baldy must be on the enemy side, since Mr. Baldy is tied up and the two of them are not. After finding out Handcuffed Man is severely wounded by gunshot, the two attempt to free him up. Jeans asks if he can remember anything, and it turns out that he also lost his memory. Buzzcut comes to the bathroom and suddenly regains a vague memory of the abduction moment. He comes back to help Jeans to look for the key so they can free Handcuffed Man. As they search through Broken Nose's body, he suddenly attacks them. So Jeans pinches his broken nose, making him scream in agony. Apparently, Broken Nose also cannot remember anything. He walks to the bathroom and only remembers that he got punched in the nose. Jeans and Buzzcut find an open canister, and they speculate that the chemical from the canister causes them to forget everything. Meanwhile, Tycoon's wife puts the ransom money in the locker, where the kidnappers will get it. The detectives are secretly waiting on the side to catch someone who will get the money, while the police are monitoring the situation in the headquarters. Soon after, a suspicious janitor stops in front of the locker, and the signal of the tracker suddenly disappears. The detectives then immediately arrest the janitor, but it turns out that the janitor is innocent and gets paid by someone to stop there. At the same time, the ransom money is already gone, since the locker has a hole that leads to the basement. So the detectives rush to the basement, and to their disappointment, the money bag is already empty. The detectives then continue to hunt the kidnapper who gets the ransom money. One of the detectives heads to the other side, where he stumbles upon a construction worker carrying a bag. He suddenly remembers that the construction worker is wearing a leather shoe, and realizes that it is one of the kidnappers. He comes out of the basement, but the kidnapper already drives away in his getaway car. The detective then reports the identity of the suspicious guy to the headquarters. At the same time, the tracker starts having a signal, so the detectives immediately drive away to follow it. Back to the warehouse, Buzzcut asks Jeans if he finds anything suspicious after he woke up earlier. Jeans then finds nothing suspicious but two chairs with ropes around them. Buzzcut then asks if it is everything he found earlier. Jeans affirms. Handcuffed Man suddenly butts in and instructs Buzzcut to ask Jeans about the phone call. Apparently, Handcuffed Man was able to hear Jeans answering the phone call. Buzzcut then gets doubtful of Jeans, as he forgot to tell them about the phone call. So Jeans narrates how the kidnapper talks to him. This makes Buzzcut believe that Jeans is one of the kidnappers, since the kidnapper on the phone was able to recognize his voice. Jeans then explains that the kidnapper might not be aware of whoever answers the phone. Later, Buzzcut searches through the locker and finds a saw blade. In the office room, Broken Nose attempts to call 911 on the telephone. To his disappointment, Buzzcut cuts the line, possibly to prevent the kidnapper among them from communicating with the kidnappers outside. Buzzcut then brings them to a lock where a corpse of a guard is hidden. There, the World Liberty Plaza is written on its uniform. Suddenly, Broken Nose realizes that the word is also written in the newspaper he saw earlier. They then rush to the bathroom and read the newspaper. There is a piece of news about the abduction of two men, the tycoon and a financial advisor. This makes them realize that two of them are the abducted and the other three are members of the kidnappers. But at this moment, they still cannot remember who they are, so they do not know who the kidnappers are among them. Buzzcut thinks that someone will pay the kidnappers, so they will end up alive when the kidnappers arrive. But Jeans and Broken Nose believe that the kidnappers will kill Tycoon and the financial advisor, even after receiving the ransom money. so they need to team up to find an escape before the kidnappers arrive at the warehouse. Broken Nose takes the saw blades and starts cutting the seal hole in the wall. Jeans advises him to cut the window bars instead, since the bars are already rusty, but Broken Nose insists on working to open the hole. Therefore, the three of them work together to remove the metal that seals it. As they are busy, Handcuff Man finds a gun near Mr. Baldy. He then signals Mr. Baldy to take the gun as protection, and the fight breaks out. As the three celebrate after opening the hole, they notice Mr. Baldy taking the gun, so they rush to get it. Jeans decides to take the gun with him. Another telephone rings, and Broken Nose runs to answer it. Buzzcut prevents him and instructs him to let Jeans answer the phone, since the kidnappers are able to recognize his voice. The kidnappers on the phone tell him that they will come in 2 hours. So the three rushes to cut window bars, since they do not fit on the hole. But soon after, they run out of saw blades to cut through the metal bars. Jeans then says they need to prepare to fight when the kidnappers arrive at the warehouse. Buzzcut reads on the paper that the chemical in the gas canister causes them to temporarily forget everything. Meanwhile, Broken Nose is smoking alone when he suddenly regains memory of himself. He then figures out that he is the financial advisor and Buzzcut is Tycoon. So he secretly informs Buzzcut that they need to defend themselves against Jeans, who currently hold the gun. Buzzcut does not believe him at first, but Buzzcut soon teams up with him to attack Jeans. They then attempt to beat the shit out of Jeans, but he is too strong for the two of them. So Jeans is able to get his gun and control them. The agitated Jeans asks them why they attacked him. Buzzcut then informs him that Broken Nose remembers that he is one of the kidnappers. But Jeans cannot accept the truth, saying that he is not a criminal. So Buzzcut calms him down. Suddenly, Broken Nose notices a glass window on the highest part of the wall. Thinking that they can escape through the window, the two pull Broken Nose upward to reach the wall. But as soon as he hammers down the window, it turns out to be a security glass. He then suggests using the gun to break it, but Jeans refuses to give it, since he does not trust Broken Nose, so Jeans decides to go up instead. When he reaches the window, he places the gun on it, and he suddenly remembers that he was actually one of the kidnappers. He feels nauseous and passes out in a few seconds. The two cannot support his weight, making him fall to the ground. Buzzcut then immediately helps him. Meanwhile, Broken Nose gets frustrated with him, since he left the gun on the window. Buzzcut defends him, so Broken Nose thinks they are teaming up. In return, Broken Nose decides to untie Mr. Baldy to form their own team. Meanwhile, with the help of the tracker, the detectives already found the boss kidnapper at the gas station. But they lose sight of him as a big truck passes by in front of them. They then follow the tracker, which points to the pickup truck parked in the bar. So they raid it. But it turns out that the pickup is owned by the bar owner. Apparently, the boss kidnapper outsmarts them by removing the tracker and placing it on the pickup truck, which misled the detectives. Back to the warehouse, Buzzcut treats the wounds of Jeans in the bathroom. Buzzcut suddenly recalls a familiar smell of tangerine, which makes him recall that he is Tycoon, who has a tangerine tree in his ranch. He then insists that Broken Nose is only guessing, and Jeans must be the financial advisor. But Jeans admits that he is not the advisor because he also regains some of his memory. As Buzzcut asks who he is, Mr. Baldy punches him out of nowhere. Broken Nose reports to them that there is a person outside the warehouse. A kid suddenly comes near them, and they instruct the kid to ask for his dad's help. But the kid and his dad just drive away from the warehouse, leaving them helpless. After that, Buzzcut remembers how he escaped from being tied up in the chair. Jeans comes to give Handcuff Man water, and informs him that they cannot remove him from the handcuff. Handcuff Man then replies that he is not afraid to die anyway. He further informs Jeans that he remembers they are childhood friends. Handcuff Man recalls that he nearly drowned to death during their childhood, and Jeans arrived in time to save him. After that, Jeans assure Handcuff Man that they will survive, and indeed, they survive together. Unfortunately, Handcuff Man fails to survive this time as he dies soon from his gunshot wound. Buzzcut then says to Jeans that he might be one with the kidnappers, but Buzzcut believes that there is some goodness within him. They then plan to team up together against the arriving boss kidnapper. They first get the gun stuck in the window and prepare a big barrel to smash the arriving kidnappers. But right then, Mr. Baldy, who will launch the barrel, suddenly remembers that he was one of the kidnappers, and the boss kidnapper ordered him previously to dig a hole for the dead bodies. So he aims at Jeans instead of the kidnapper who comes in. Broken Nose sees it and immediately warns Jeans to evade the barrel. This alerts the kidnappers and accidentally shoots the shitty Mr. Baldy to death. Broken Nose immediately shoots the other kidnapper while Jeans beats the other one. The boss kidnapper and his assistant arrive, holding Buzzcut, who is one of the abducted. Knowing that Jeans is one of the kidnappers, Broken Nose, who turns out to be the financial advisor, instructs Jeans to hit him. This makes the boss kidnapper believe that Jeans is still on the kidnapper's side. Jeans then explains to the boss kidnapper how Buzzcut and Broken Nose managed to fight back against him. Suddenly, Jeans remembers how they lost their memory in the warehouse. He recalls that he came to the warehouse where he found Buzz cut and Broken Nose fighting back against Handcuff Man. He then prevented Broken Nose from getting the gun, while Handcuff Man pushed Buzz Cut to the chemical canister, causing it to fall. In response, Buzz Cut puts a handcuff to Handcuff Man, trapping him in the railings. During the fighting over the gun, Jeans and Broken Nose accidentally shot Handcuff Man. The canister starts leaking from the fall, and they inhale the chemical, causing them to temporarily lose their memory. Back to the present. The boss kidnapper instructs Jeans to clean up the mess in the warehouse. Jeans then convinces the boss not to kill Buzz Cut and Broken Nose. The boss then says he will not kill them. In a brief moment of suspense, the boss sets his gun and points it at Jeans. But it turns out he is only instructing Jeans to kill the two. Jeans takes a look at his lighter and remembers that it was given by his daughter. Apparently, he recalls that he was already divorced, and his daughter died from a chronic illness. After that, Jeans orders Buzz Cut and Broken Nose to bring the dead guard to the pit. As they arrive in the pit, Jeans pretentiously says to them that he needs to execute them, and he will get out alive afterward. However, the boss soon figures out that Jeans are helping Buzz Cut and Broken Nose. The boss walks out of the warehouse and calls him a cop, which triggers his memory to come back. Jeans then recalls that he is a former cop before getting involved in the illegal activities. As the boss is about to execute him, Broken Nose smashes the assistant out of nowhere, and Jeans manages to fight back against the boss. Broken Nose attempts to smash the boss with his shovel, but the boss fatally shoots him. Jeans then fight the boss, and they exchange punches with each other in the pit before they both get tired from the fight. So the boss gets the shotgun and attempts to shoot Jeans. Fortunately, Buzz Cut arrives in time to fatally shoot the shitty boss. Jeans then thanks Buzz Cut for saving his life. After that, Jeans takes the photo of his daughter from the lighter and throws the lighter into the pit, which burns the dead boss. Soon after, the medics and the police finally arrive at the warehouse, thanks to the report received from the kid earlier about the suspicious activity in the warehouse. The police think that Jeans is doing undercover work against the boss, so they do not arrest him. Meanwhile, the tycoon's wife arrives in the scene and gives her husband a loving embrace. However, as soon as Jeans sees the tycoon's wife, he suddenly remembers that he was having an affair with her. It turns out that he planned the kidnapping with her, so they could be rich together, and they could also get rid of her tycoon husband. Feeling guilty over his crime, Jeans decides to return the ransom money to the police. In the end, Buzz Cut, now the tycoon, introduces her to Jeans, thinking Jeans is his trusted friend. This is Daniel's CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.